Howdy y'all, I am Ice Gold, and for today's video I'm going to be going over in my opinion at least, the best gear setups for every school in Wizard101 PVP. This is for max level. If y'all are looking for, low level, I don't know of any guides, but I do know that Not Really Him uploads low level PV, so you might go check him out just to see what he runs. But if y'all are in here for max level, which I assume most of you are, we are going to go ahead and get started. I don't want to yap for too long about these setups. Most of them should be pretty self-explanatory, but there's just a couple basic things to know, and that is, this is a king stat. You definitely want as much of this as you can get. Some schools can't afford to give up some. Some of the more tanky schools definitely can, but the main thing that you want to be trying to do is hitting your stat caps, and stat caps matter a lot, and that's why, I'm talking about gear here, because the gear setups that I use meet, for the most part, meet all of the stat caps, or at least get close enough to where they're good, where, trying to min-max to one would, detract from another, that type of thing. So yeah, what's important is that you meet your stat caps, and I'll flash those on screen, and those will just sort of be at the bottom of the screen for the rest of the video. But here we go. Right, let's go ahead and start. So for fire, these are the stats that I've got. Perfect pips, really good shads, P serve doesn't really matter too much, but 1 off the damage cap, 1 off of the res cap, 1 off of the pierce cap if I have a clockwork courser, and then some good off-school damage. And then this is a little sus. Technically speaking, you could give up an ice pin for more storm accuracy depending on what you're running in your deck, but yeah, you'll be 1 shy of the 30, but most of the spells you're using are the standard fire 25% accuracy, so you should be fine even with this. I've honestly never fizzled once, so you're totally fine there. But yeah, those are all the stats, and then the gear is as follows. I use the Wastelander's Scorched Hat. This, in my opinion, is the best hat for fire, and you're gonna see a lot of these, mainly because the extra accuracy pin that you get is pretty important. So it's like if you were to run full storm accuracy pins, you would have 35% accuracy with this setup, with the rest of the setup, so that can be important, but you get the idea. This gives a lot of damage, a lot of pierce, a lot of pip chance, which is really important, and it gives shads and a power pin as well as 2 swords. So pretty good there. Just overall, very, very good hat to just have. And it does give up some critical block, but it's like you make up for it in other ways. So you have that. For the robe, I'm using the Fervid Dreamstalker armor. There's another robe that you can use, the Hunhaus Meteoric Mail. They have the same pin template, 2 powers and a sword, and then this is just what I'm running for the pins. The double accuracy and the storm damage, always good. But I use the Stalker armor because it gives me a lot more health, and it's just better for surviving. It gives me a little bit more crit block as well, which is always nice. But yeah, you could use the Hunau robe. I did for a while, but it's just not really for me. I migrated over to using the Stalker robe after a little bit, and the extra 500 health has saved me before. So good to keep that in mind. For the boots, and one thing I will say, you will see a lot of Hunau robes. You might not see too much Stalker gear in here, but you'll see a lot of Hunau robes. You'll probably see a lot of plot armor robes, which I'll go over in a bit. But this is something that's going to be very consistent throughout most of these setups, the Xibalba boots. And the, I guess, pack equivalent is going to be the Faeriequeens boots, just like the Hunau equivalent is going to be the Freaky Floormancer 2024 pack robes. But yeah, you get the idea. The Xibalba / Faeriequeens boots are the ones that you want to run. These give up hip chance for shad rating, and you also gain some more resist on top of that at the cost of some health, but that's why you run Stalker robe, to make up for that health. So there you go. There's a lot of damage, a lot of pierce. This is just a really good gear piece that you need, whether it's this or the Faeriequeens version. Speaking of Faeriequeens, the Xibalba and Faeriequeens sword, wand, that type of deal, that's going to be what you want as a fire. And then there's not really much room for anything else. I'll say that much right now. You could try playing around with this, but you lose stats at that point, and I mean, you lose a lot of stats. You lose 3 whole pierce. Like, me personally, I wouldn't do this. So yeah, just stick to the Jabalba wand for level 170 or Faerieque, depending on if you have the pack wand. So that's important. For the Athames, I typically on most schools I will use the Dream Reaver Athames, because they give a square socket for extra health, which is pretty important right now. It's a very important stat. And this gives, 25 damage, 17 pip chance, and a lot of health. So, love to see that. This is a very, very good piece. Some schools will use the gold key Athames if you need, like, an extra triangle slot, but you will be giving up some health in those instances, and I'll go over that in a little bit. For the amulet, I am using the Hunhao amulet on my fire. Just the choice in my opinion. Running it allows you to get that 5th Pierce Jewel, which is very important there, and you get the 7% accuracy, which allows you to have perfect accuracy to storm and then near perfect to fire. So, pretty good, I would say. Just very, very nice. And you get a free dispel from it, so love to see that from your matches occasionally. So, the next one up is going to be the Malistair's Vengeance Band, aka the Skyfarer Horde Pack ring. And these are very important. These, I think, like, some setups sort of vary between schools, depending on, like what pieces they're running. Like, there are a couple schools that don't use this, but rather the Burrower boots, that type of deal. Or, like I was saying before, the Chrysanthemum knives. But this is consistent among all 7 schools. You need to run these. The Skyfarer / Meowiarty rematch rings, the Malistair rings, technically, quote-unquote, is what they're called, but they dropped the Meowiarty rematch, which is very confusing. But this is the most consistent piece across all 7 schools. Like, you will see that I use the Skyfarer ring on every last one of them, because it gives 4% extra pip chance compared to the Reaver rings at the cost of a little bit of damage, and it gives 2% extra pip chance compared to the Nullity rings. So, yeah, it's like you will need this to hit max pip chance without having to use, like, the rock mount, for example, because if you have to use the rock, then you give up the Clockwork Courser, which is the mount that I use on 5 of the 7 schools, but the Clockwork Courser will give you 2% Pierce, the Rock will give you 3% Pip Chance, but Pierce, much more important than Pip Chance, I will say that right now. So you want to be sure you have the Skyfarer rings, just so that way you don't have to run the Rock, so that you can run the extra Pierce. So that's what's going on there. Did sort of explain them out just now, so I will just do the pet. For the pet, I use a triple-double Mighty Lord of Summer pet. This is very, very good. I use it because it gives an extra bubble card, but, there's occasionally you can find, like, a better pet body. Personally, I just like the Lord of Summer just because it gives that extra bubble. I have seen people mess around with, like, Frillisaur pets, but, yeah, I'm not really sure where they make up the Pierce if they're running the mount, like I think they are. So, me personally, I would just recommend running this. Just a triple-double Mighty Lord of Summer. Gets you a nice bubble. Pretty good. For the mount, like I said, I use the Clockwork Courser on this character. And then for the deck, there's really going to be 2 choices among the decks for every school. It's going to be the Hunhao deck, if you're not running Pip Conversion, or the Gold Key Boss deck. In this case, it's the Fiery Chrysanthemum deck from Takanobu the Masterless. Lambent Fire also drops its own version. But these are, like, one of these 2 is what you want. You can reasonably use the Chrysanthemum deck on every school, but the Hunhao deck is the one that I use on my fire just because it gives me, like, a little extra health, which, like I said, can save you, and you're not really running Pip Conversion as a fire. But the 5th Dark Surge that the Chrysanthemum deck and the Gold Key Boss decks give can be very good, but it's sort of just up to you what you want to run. I like the health a little bit more just because I cycle really fast on this character, and I'm able to pull from my 4 Dark Surges. I don't really think I need a 5th. So there is that, just to, I guess, sort of show off the deck setup. I don't even know what I'm missing. It's probably a Furnace. Yeah, it's definitely a Furnace. I'm just out of those. So Wow, I spent like 8 minutes talking about my fire. Interesting. But the others should not take nearly as long, just because it's like I've sort of explained, just like the meta pieces of gear for each school. There's going to be some variation. It's just I've already explained what's good about all of them. So, just all the usual pieces that you'll see, depending on the school. So, let's move to ice. So, for the ice setup, just sort of at my red barn farm, I had to take care of plants, but for the ice setup, let's quickly go over that. These are the stats. I'm 1 off the damage cap, 2 off the resist, same exact thing with fire is happening here. And then I've got the Clockwork Courser, so I do meet the Pierce cap, which is pretty nice, and then I've got perfect pips, so you'll have to see that. Some pip conserve, don't really need it too much, but let's go over the gear. So, the first difference from fire here is going to be that I run the Xibalba Comet Helm. And this hat is a little different. It gives me, like, way better defensive stats. And it'll give up, it gives up pip chance for, I guess, what does it give up pip chance for? Crit block, that's what it gives up. So, where Wastelander will give you a good amount of pip chance, Xibalba will give crit block, obviously in each other's place, that type of deal. So I just use this because it gives very strong damage stats, like 31 damage and 4 pierce, pretty good for ice. Some decent accuracy, but it gives a lot of resist and a lot of health, and it also gives pretty good chads as well. But yeah, as an ice, you really want that crit block stat up. So that's why the Xibalba hat is better in my opinion. Although you can get away with a Wastelander hat on occasion. Maybe honestly, there is a setup where I could use this and run some extra storm accuracy just to save myself some brain trouble, but you know how it is. For the robe, and I really wish I got my plot armor robe out, because I have one now, but I run the Hoonhau's Comet Mail on my ice. Like I said, for the fire, it's just, it's very good. It gives, like, a lot of really great stats. It does give up accuracy, but, yeah. I guess I'll talk about the plot armor later. Xibalba boots, just like for the same reasons that I gave for my fire, just very good. It gives the best stats. And then for the wand, I use the level 170 Xibalba wand. Gives just a lot of good stats, a bit of extra accuracy, which is never a bad thing, and then obviously just very good piece of gear. You'll love to see that. For the Athame, this is one of those where I do use the gold key boss Athame. So I do this to get 2% extra pip chance, because even with the Skyfire ring, I am still 1% short, and I do want to make up for that. So I use the Icy Imperial Court Knife that drops from Takanobu the Masterless. So definitely good, gives me the same damage as the Dream Reaver knife. It's just I do have to give up a little bit of HP for the extra pip chance, because that is kind of a trade-off. You know, you run better defensive stats here and give some up here. So is what it is. So yeah, or give up pip chance stats here. So, or you make them back here and you give up health. That's what's going on. Okay, yeah, I don't know how to speak English, and it's definitely not midnight when I'm recording this. For the amulet, you do have a couple choices. Personally, though, I use the Chilling Archival Ample, which drops from the Forbidden Library Horde Pack. It's an amulet that gives a square socket, a lot of resist, and some decent pip conserve, even though as an ice you're not really running much of that. A lot of good health, but the main kicker here is that it gives you an extra copy of Brace. This is exceedingly important for an ice, and like, yeah, I mean, on occasion I would say, you know, you could try and make Hoonhau work, but this time around, it's like with how much auras have started to matter, Brace is the play. So you definitely want this amulet. It gives you a lot more extra resist. Skyfarer equivalent ring, for the same reasons I mentioned, gets you that extra pip chance. Pretty good stats otherwise. And then for my pet, I've got a double mighty sharp shot pet, and I do need this so that way I can be sure I'm able to counter both shields and overtimes. So, you know, very fun. Ice has to like triple school, and it's a whole hassle, but it is what it is there. For the mount, again, like I do for the fire, I use my Clockwork Courser. 2 extra pierce gets me to the caps. And then for the deck, I do actually have a Hoonhau deck, but I don't use it in favor of the Icy Imperial Court deck just because I need that 5th Dark Surge. So, very good choice there. But, if you do want to run the Hunhao deck, you can still go for it. I just personally like the extra Dark Surge from the Gold Key deck. So, there we go. That is ice. Let me put my pajamas back on before we go to Storm. So it's kind of a running gag for me to not stitch my Storm set at this point because I just am too lazy to farm for the actual gear itself. But this is the Storm set. Yeah, so I'm missing... I just need to trade out a pet talent, and I will be at the damage cap. You give up some resist, but as a Storm, like, your resist sucks anyway, you can tell. But yeah, I hit the Pierce cap, the damage cap with the correct set. Perfect accuracy, of course, and I get a lot of outgoing healing, which can help on a Storm. Not a lot of P-Serve, Storm doesn't really run that. Perfect pips, very good shads, so you love to see that. So, for the gear pieces, I use the Jabalba Crying Sky Helm. This is the exact same hat that I use on my Ice, just the Storm version. And I do this because rather than getting an extra shield pin for, Crit Block, which I was using on my Ice, I get this for the extra bit of outgoing healing that I can get as a Storm. So, pretty good. I also don't dual school with Myth. I'm just too lazy to go farm for actual pins. So, just in case y'all were wondering what's going on there. For the robe, I use the Fierce Dreamstalker armor, same reason as the fire. I get a lot of health out of that, and I still meet stat caps with it. So, very, very nice there. And this fatty 85 Storm Shield, it can come in handy sometimes, I promise you. For the boots, I use the Burrower's Divination boots, and just like I was talking about before, I use these because they give me that extra shield pin for an extra 23% outgoing healing. That's very important. Storms can use Berry Surprise and get a lot of healing off of that, so that's what's up with that. But yeah, the Burrower boots definitely... on top, in my opinion. The Dreamstalker boots do exist, but you do still have perfect accuracy with the Burrower boots, and accuracy is the stat that the Burrower boots give up. So, kind of just what it is there. Like the Burrower boots are definitely better. These are from the Burrower's Horde pack, or you can get them dropped from General Lightbane, which is a gold key moss. So, pretty neat. For the wand, I use the level 170 Jabalba wand, third school in a row doing this, just gets a lot of really, really good stats. That's all there really is to it. You can kind of tell just by looking at it. For the Athame, I use the Jabalba Crying Sky Athame. I know, more raid gear, but I think the Faeriequeens Athame gives outgoing too, if I'm not mistaken, so if you want to just buy your way to it, then you can. But... I do this over the Reaver Athame because it gives me outgoing healing. 7%, it's not too much, but it can help. So, yeah, these basically are the exact same template, just swapping out block for outgoing. Kind of up to y'all if y'all want to use the one with a little bit of outgoing, or if you just want to use the one with the crit block. Completely up to you. The Fierce Dream Reaver knife is way easier to get. I'll say that right now, but... yeah, it's up to y'all, and I use this again because it gives a square socket, which gives a lot of health, and, I mean, outgoing, it's just a good stat, so, love it there. For the amulet, I'm using the Hunhao's Crying Sky Amulet. This gives, like, pretty decent stats, although there is one amulet that drops from Lambent Fire, but not Takanobu, that gives a Steel Pip card, the Squall King's Charm, I think it's called, and it gives... a circle socket and a triangle socket, so it's the exact same jewel template, but that's just the one that I would recommend using just because it gives you that extra steel pip. That can be helpful sometimes, so that I think is the piece that I would prefer to have. I just don't have it because I haven't farmed Lambent in a hot second, so there you have that. So yeah, Hunhao still works like a charm though, gotta say it, it's still very good, so love it for what it is, but Squall King's Charm, probably better. So, next up, Skyfarer Ring. It's even more imperative for Storm and Life because it gives outgoing healing. So, like I said, for the Athame, outgoing healing can be kind of nice on a Storm. For the pet, I use a... okay, so this isn't actually the perfect pet, like I was talking about before, but if you were to swap out that 6% spell defying for an extra 7% damage on like a giver talent, that would be the perfect pet. You would only have like 48%, or 47 I guess, technically, resist if you were using both the perfect pet, which I actually have on a Rain Beetle, interestingly enough, but yeah, you'd only have 47 res if you were to get rid of that defy and use the Squall King's Charm over the Hunhao amulet, so... yeah, I mean, this is still the optimal setup just because it gets you to the max damage and pierce, and I mean, you already basically don't have res anyway, so yeah, you get the point of that at that point. But I just use the Stormy Null Dragon here because it gives Storm Elf. It's not banned yet, but once that does get banned, if I'm still playing, that is, I will be using the Storm Beetle. So this is the pet talent that you want to see with an extra 5% pip chance socketed. So yeah, it's just, this has the better card. So that's what matters more at the moment. For the mount, definitely the Clockwork Courser, just to get you up to the caps of 59 pierce. And then for the deck, I use the Hunhao Crying Sky deck just for a little extra HP. Can't hurt. Love to see it. So, kind of nice. Let's move on to Myth. So Myth is kind of an interesting one. We've got a couple gear swaps. The stat caps, we're close to the stat caps. I'll say that much at least. But this is the best, like, I guess, well-rounded stat profile. There are a couple things that you can do that I just, haven't yet on the Myth. But I use the Wastelander hat, although you definitely could get away with using the Jabalba hat or the Faeriequeens hat. They're both the same. And, you could use that with the Forbidden Library amulet, but I just haven't really experimented with that yet. But anyway, for the time being, Wastelander's Furious hat, that is what I'm using at present. Like I said, for the fire, it gives a lot of good stats. Really allows you to play aggro. Love to see that. For the robe, Hunhao, same reason as I'm using it on the ice. A lot of good stats. Love to see that. It also gives me an extra Stone Colossus, which is very strong, so you'll love to see that as well. For the boots, I am using the Jabalba boots, same as for the fire and ice. Just all those stats are so important. And then Myth is not a healing school, so, you're not really using shield pins all that much. So, yep. Now, this is a bit of an odd one. This is a bit of a deviation, but I use the Jabalba Heavenly Sword for level 160 rather than 170. You can't get this in a pack. You do have to raid for it. But this wand is very, very good because it gives, like, pretty close stats to the 170 version. And if I did use the 170 version, I would hit the damage and pierce caps, but I would be giving up a lot of health for that. So, yeah, I mean, the 160 version, it definitely gives, like, that square socket is what matters there. Gives you some extra health, and that has saved me before. So, yep, I run about 11.1k HP, but it would be much lower if I wasn't running the 160 version of this mod. So, just something to keep in mind there. For the Fame, I am running the Fabled Dreamreaver Knife. Very, very good. So, same reason as before. A lot of health, a lot of damage. Love that. For the amulet, I'm running the Hunhao amulet, same reason as the fire. Honestly, I think barring the Stalker robe here, I think these are like carbon copies of one another. Because, I mean, the Skyfarer band, of course. Okay, no. There is a swap here. So, this pet is a triple damage, double resist, and armor breaker pet. And I don't have Mighty on this one. Some people do like to experiment with that a little more, but I don't have Mighty on this one because I would rather get 3% more pierce than drop a bunch of damage. So that's what's up there. So I do use this. It gets me to 64 out of 65 pierce. So pretty decent there. And then for the mount, I'm using the Crystal Unicorn for the 2% extra accuracy. I don't necessarily need it for Myth, but I do need it for Fire, which I am weaving at the moment. Although, I mean, I could switch to Storm, and maybe I'd still need it. Maybe if I'm running for... Yeah, no, I would still need it if I was weaving Storm for perfect Storm accuracy, but you get the idea. So, like I sort of briefly flashed on screen, I'm running the Hunhao deck. Just pretty good. Like I said, circle slot deck. That's all you really need with that. So, that's sort of what's going on there. So, let's talk about the Life School. So, next. For the Life School, we have got, we've definitely got some stats. That's for sure. You're one short of the damage cap with this setup, like I think one short of the resist cap. You do have perfect accuracy to life, and then your weaving school will also be perfect accuracy, reasonably sure, unless it's Storm, but why are you a life weaving Storm? And then we've got perfect pierce, decent crit, pretty good block, and then 82% outgoing healing. This is very, very good, and you are going to want this, especially as a life wizard. You are 1% shy on pip chance, which you kind of can't avoid, but kind of just is what it is there. And then you have 88% pip conversion. So this is going to be the first school that I've got which does have this. So I will show you what's going on there. So yeah, also very high shads. But yeah, so you're going to be running the Xibalba Xenoform Helm for the same reason that I was running it on my Storm. You get a lot of outgoing healing from the shield pin. Very, very nice. For the robe, Hunhao, like I said, for, what was it, Ice and Myth, I think are the two that I'm running this on as well. It's just so many good stats. and as a life wizard, you don't really need accuracy like that. You could use the Stalker Robe for a lot more HP, but I am actually using the... Or actually, no, you do drop a lot of stats here, but yeah, the idea. So I'm using the Bold Dreamstalker Boots, which I should mention, these do give a lot of health, but you do... It's like if you're running these, then you probably will want to run this just so you can get like some extra crit rating, because it does severely affect your crit multiplier and even your chance at that point. So yeah, Stalker Boots, very nice. Love to see that. So there you have that. And you use these, like I said before, for the extra shield pin. So get yourself some more outgoing healing. For the wand, I'm using the 170 Hunhao Xenoform Sword. This wand... This is just like the wand as a life wizard if you're running pip conversion, which I am, and I'm doing that because, you know, as a life you use a lot of odd pip spells, so you do have that going, and yeah, so overall, very good. You get that pip conversion, that 213 pip conversion, so pretty solid, and if you are a school that runs pip conversion, this is like the one to go for, so just a heads up on that. So just keep in mind, although, like, I guess if you technically weren't, you could run this, but, you know, to each their own. For the Athame, I run the Xibalba Xenoform Athame for the same reason I run the Storm Xibalba Athame, and I'm running this for that little bit of extra outgoing healing boost, although, of course, you know, I actually don't think I have... Wait a minute. Vibrant Archival Dirk. I didn't even know this gave a square socket. Oh, but it doesn't give any pip chance. Okay, never mind, ignore me. But you get the point. So you definitely want this Athame. I'm actually going to feed this one to my pet. Why is that even in my backpack? But, yep, this is just the one that you want. The Reaper Athame, I don't actually have it. Surprisingly, I'm kind of not sure how, but what can I say? But yeah, you just want that square socket so you can get some extra health. And the outgoing is also pretty nice as well. I'm also running the Hunhao Xenoform Amulet, circle slot. You know, you do you. that's sort of what you're on about. You could run the Archival Amulet, but I personally don't. I run this because I get a lot more Pierce out of it, and it's just really, really good like that. So, Hunhao Amulet is what I would recommend here. For the ring, of course, Skyfarer, even more important here on a life than any other school. You need that 16% outgoing. That's going to influence the game a lot, and 25 pip chance is pretty strong in its own right, so you'll love to see that. For the pet, I am running this Double Mighty Breaker Fern Lumi. I think I've had this forever, and it just gets me to the caps, so what can I say? It's a good pet. Love to see that. Although personally, if I was going to remake the pet, I would have the same talents on probably a bubble pet, to be honest with you. I mean, life gets a lot of bubbles, but having some more, it never hurt anybody, right? So there's that. For the mount, I actually have the Clockwork Courser on this character, so there you go. There you have that. 2% Pierce. Pretty good. And then for the deck, I'm using the Vivid Imperial Court deck. Now this is not negotiable. You do need this because you absolutely need to get that extra pip conversion from it. So there you have that. And then the extra Dark Surge is quite nice as well. So that is the life setup. So love to see that. Anyway, let's move on to the death. So now next up we've got the Death School, and Death has very good stats, arguably the best out of any school. I'm a little shy here, and then I do use the Clockwork, or not the Clockwork Courser, but the Crystal Unicorn to get this accuracy up above 25, so that's important. I do have max Death Pierce, and you'll love to see that. Perfect Power Pips, don't really need Piece of Nirvana Death. So yeah, those are the death stats. And then for the gear, I've got the Wastelander hat, like I've been, talking about, very, very good. Hunhao robe, y'all have heard it by now. For the boots, y'all have heard it by now. For the wand, y'all have heard it by now. With the myth, I just run the 160 version because I actually don't lose stats from the caps by running this over the 170 version. So just getting that extra like 500 HP, it's very, very nice to have. So 160 version of the Jabalba wand, what I would recommend for sure. For the Athame, Reaver Athame, y'all have already heard it. For the amulet, Hunhao amulet, y'all have already heard it. For the ring, I use the Ominous Skyfarer's band, y'all have already heard it. And then for the pet, I use a triple-double Mighty Gloomy Goatling. So, pretty good. I just use this because it gives me some extra threefold fevers. Pretty nice. So, there is one thing, though, that I did want to mention, and that is this robe, the Baleful Plot Armor. There are some schools that can use this robe effectively. Death is one of them. Ice and Myth also use this relatively nice. And then I don't think Life uses it, and then I also don't think that Balance uses this either, but they could get away with it. So, you do give up a power pin, so your dual schooling ability is kind of hurt by this, but you do get a little bit of extra resistance, you get some extra accuracy, you can like weave something different if you were to use this robe, and it gives a lot of good damage and pierce, and it gives you some extra health as well. So this basically just has better stats in a lot of senses compared to the Hunhao robe, but I mean, ultimately you're giving up shads here. That is the big kicker with this robe, and that's why a lot of schools don't use it. It's like people will use this on like Ice, Death, and Myth because you'll get like 2% extra resist, which can help you hit the cap on that. But I personally don't use this because it hinders my dual schooling ability, and it's also not giving shads. So that is very important. Like on every school you need shads, but the three that I've been talking about, Ice, Myth, and Death, you can afford to run 3-piece, but I just still don't, just because I like my dual schooling ability much better. So there you go. You could use this robe technically, just sort of up to you if you want to. So Baleful Plot Armor, that's the story on that. If you're an Ice, Death, or Myth, it's an option, but I personally would still recommend the Hunhao robe. So there's that. For the boots, Jabalba, or haven't I gone over all this? So, but yeah, like I was saying, I use the Crystal Unicorn for that extra 2% accuracy, and then I use the Hunhao deck. And I do honestly like this over the Deadly August Sage deck, just because this gives me a max, like a maxed out Monster Mash card, which I do tend to use somewhat often, because if I use this with like a threefold, it's doing like 3,000 to 4,000 damage if I've got buffs up. So very good. I would recommend the Hunhao deck for that, if nothing else. So there you have that. So let's move on to the final school, being Balance. Okay, so we've got Balance as our final school. I still technically don't have the greatest of pets. I worked, quote-unquote, on a setup a while back, but never really finished it up, so there you have that. But anyway, for the Balance School, this is the gear that I'm rocking. I am using the Wastelander equivalent hat, which, just very, very good. You, I guess, could get away with using the Jabalba hat. I know that there's setups that use that. Like, you could kind of use the one that I use on my Ice, where it's like the Jabalba hat and the archival amulet, but up to you on that. But yeah, I use the Wastelander hat for the same reason that I do on my Fire, my Myth, and my Death. I think those are the three that I use them on, so you have that going. But yeah, just very, very good here. A lot of good stats. For the robe, I use the Hunhao robe. Just, what it is there. Hunhao, like I've been saying, very, very good. Helps with dual schooling and all that. Jabalba, y'all have heard it. Jabalba, or no, actually not Jabalba, actually. This is the Hunhao vacuum sword, and it's the same one that I was using on my Life. This gives you a lot of good pip conversion, which you do need as a balance, so definitely use this over the Jabalba one. So yeah, just Hunhao is better. For the Athame, I use the Deft Dream Reaver knife. Pretty good, pretty self-explanatory. A lot of damage, a lot of health. And then for the amulet, like I was saying before, who knows what I use for, same reasons as I've been saying for the other schools. And then for the ring, actually, yeah, so this is the one where it does deviate a little bit, but the concept is the same. So basically, you do get enough pip chance to where running the Skyfarer ring would bring down your damage a little bit, but it would put you 3% over 100% pip chance. And you don't need over 100% pip chance, you just need 100. So I use the Hunhao ring because it does, like, it needs to be a little bit more damage, and I guess with the setup I have right now, that doesn't really matter too much, but this, it does matter because it gives 2% more pip chance than the Reaver ring, but yeah, it's like, you get a little more damage and still maintain your pip chance. So it's like, it's the same concept running this as it is with running the Skyfarer ring. It's like you run those pieces because you need to get to 100% pip chance, but the Hunhao ring is able to do it. Both of them are able to do it, I guess is what I'm trying to say, but you get a little bit more out of the Hunhao ring than the Skyfarer ring in this scenario, just for balance. So there is that. And then for the pet, I am running this pet at the moment, but there is a setup that I want to run that involves getting the archival amulet, so I would lose, I guess, 6 pierce here, but I would make it up here. And I am using the August Sage deck, the gold key deck, for balance because it gives pip conversion, so, and then I also use the Clockwork Courser here, so, but yeah, for the pet, what I would do is I would drop the Pain Giver here. So yeah, I would drop, or no, I would, okay, so, well, I can really speak English. Okay, so what I would do here is I would drop the Armor Breaker at the top. So I would drop 6 pierce, and then I would drop, 10 damage, but I would gain 6 pierce back here, so it's a net loss of 0 pierce, which does allow me to basically hit the pierce cap, but I'm a little bit of damage over the cap, actually. The cap is 190, and I have 194, so where I would lose 3 by getting rid of this, I would gain, it wouldn't matter, because I would be at 191 with the perfect pet here, so you have that. So yeah, I think I'm getting that right. I hope I'm getting that right. I could be getting it very, very brutally wrong, and it's Pierce that I need over anything else. Maybe I'd be running something else somewhere. Maybe, I can't even remember. But basically, just this setup will work just totally fine for you. So, it's like, I'm trying not to overcomplicate things too much, but it's like the setup that I want to run has, marginally lower damage, but it does have, it's still got good pierce, and basically I'm just trying to fine-tune the set a little bit, and also get some good health out of the archival amulet because it gives a square socket as opposed to the circle here. So yeah, that probably really confused you, but the setup that you're looking at right now is very, very good, and it's absolutely good enough, and I would recommend going for that. But if you are adventurous, you might use the archival amulet here, and then maybe give up this damage jewel for some pierce. So you would go from, 56 to 50, back to 56, and then you would drop, man, I'm just going to quit confusing y'all, because I'm confused now, but you get the general idea. Just use the set that I showed you, don't listen to my rambling. Anyway, so that is going to wrap up what is, in my opinion, the best gear set for every school in PvP at the moment. This ended up being a lot longer than I intended. How about that? So, there you have it. But yeah, thank you all for watching. I've been Ice Gold. Be sure to like, subscribe, and leave 50 comments for the algorithm. My Discord is down in the description if you want to chat with me some more, and I will see y'all later.